Howdy folks, Bricks and Quacks, and today we are reviewing the dump truck and front end loader. I'm going to tell you if this $130 set is actually worth $130. Alright, so let's get into it. Ignore Jabba the Hutt, he's just chilling, leave him alone. So it's pretty cool, looks like it comes with a dump truck as well as a bulldozer, and it looks like you can actually dump the rocks into the dump truck. And my favorite thing about this whole set is the pug it comes with. Honestly, I didn't even know it came with the pug, and I was actually going to spend $70 on the streetcar set just to get the pug, but this came with the pug. I was so excited because my sister has a pug. I had a pug growing up. I love pugs. All right, and the box for this set is huge. It's almost just as big as the Hocus Pocus set box. And as you can see, I'll do a side-by-side comparison. It's almost just as wide as the Hocus Pocus box. And the Hocus Pocus box is 2,000 pieces. So it's about as big as your 2,000 piece set, the box is. All right, so it is really nice. It does come with 3 individual books for each build. Each vehicle has its own book, and then the pug has its own book along with the storage thing or the container. There's the dump truck and the front end loader. All right, so this thing is massive. You may not be able to tell in the video, but it's almost twice as long as the GT3 RS Porsche, and the Porsche is a very long Speed Champions car. It's a little over a foot wide, and as I can see, I do have a road base plate there, and just it going down the road, it's wider than or longer than the base plate. And unfortunately, Jabba the Hutt is so big, though, he does not fit in the back of the dump truck. So if that's what you wanted to use it for, I'm going to apologize in advance. It's not going to work. All right, so taking a closer look at the actual dump truck itself, I really do like a lot of the features on it. If you actually sit here and look at the dump truck itself, you'll notice a lot of little things that are really cool on it. As you can see, the mirrors look really cool, and there's actually a handle where if you wanted to have like the minifigures jump on, climb up the little ladder to the left, and then grab onto the bar like you normally would to get in a tall dump truck like this, you could actually play out the whole thing. And I believe the doors do open as well, so you could also make the minifigure open the door, put the minifigure in. And I really do like the attention to detail as well on the connecting part here. All right, so one unfortunate thing as well is if you put Jabba the Hutt in the back of the dump truck and you try to dump him, you are not going to be able to get rid of Jabba the Hutt. That is one really big downside about this dump truck set. All right, so we're going to test out the dump truck features with a minifigure. So I really do like this back part here. You can actually lift it up. If you had like a minifigure or something in the back of the dump truck and you wanted to have him scoop stuff out, you could, which is pretty cool. And the chains on the side actually do move whenever you lift that up. All right, so whenever we do lift up the back of the dump truck, you do have to lift it right here, but anything slides right out, and the actual back of the dump truck part stays exactly where it's at, so you can actually dump stuff. So one thing that's pretty interesting is there's a rubber piece between the front of the dump truck and the back of the dump truck where it tries to keep the dump truck straight, and if you turn it, the dump truck almost wants to turn the other side. So if you move the back, the front of it wants to turn, and if you move it this way, it wants to turn the other way, which is pretty interesting. It almost feels like an actual dump truck, like one of the toy dump trucks you would play with as a kid. All right, so moving on to the front end loader, I really do like the steps on this thing as well. Like I said, the attention to detail in a lot of these sets is really cool. Unfortunately, I did lose one of the black pieces for mine, so I wasn't able to fully complete it. You can't really tell from this angle, but it's on the other side, so I wasn't able to put up the other mirror on the actual dump truck itself. It also has that same sway functionality with the rubber piece in the middle. So it does try to straighten itself out, which is pretty interesting. All right, so one thing about this is the joints are actually really stiff. One thing I do like though is it's not like a lot of the older Technic sets where if you move it too much, the axle will pop out of place and then you got to put it back in. And
hold up, wait a minute, something ain't
It's not even worth or fun playing with. Luckily, this just stays together because the actual pieces are actually long enough to be able to extend and retract a lot of the stuff as much as you want. All right, and the dump part does actually, the scooper part does actually go up all the way. I'm sorry, my construction people, I do not know the technical terms for a lot of this stuff, so you're just gonna have to bear with me. All right, then as you can see, it does very easily turn all the way down. I don't know why you would want to turn it all the way down like this. It kind of ruins the point. Even if you're trying to dump it into the dump truck, there's no point turning it all the way, because if you just turn it a little bit, it's going to dump the rocks into the dump truck. But hey, the functionality's there, and it goes all the way without coming out, so we can't complain. All right, so it does get very close to the ground. Unfortunately, it doesn't actually touch the ground. It hovers just a tad bit above the ground. So if there's any Lego pieces that touch the ground and they're kind of small, you're not going to be able to scoop them up, unfortunately. All right, so one thing I noticed immediately is I really do like the back of this front end loader, but unfortunately, I don't know if my hands were greasy or what was going on, but I just barely touched the back of it and it was already leaving fingerprints everywhere. So it did look kind of bad from the back. And as you can see, it looks like it already has a lot of play wear just because I touched it with my hands. The back does look good, and Lego did do, I would say, in general, a pretty good job of putting this all together. All right, so here's the side-by-side comparison of the front end loader and the Porsche. It is slightly longer than the Porsche, which is pretty cool because this thing is huge. So one thing I did notice in these builds is, for whatever reason, Lego's been adding like these water animations, like you don't know that's a sink. Obviously, that's the toilet. Obviously, the toilet paper is right there, and obviously, that's a sink. It's pretty common sense. Another thing here, like, why did they have to put the vent there? And then the pizza, and then the water, like, common knowledge. All right, so now we're getting to my favorite part. The pug and the minifigures. So the pug is super adorable, super cute. Honestly, probably one of the best dog minifigures there is, just because there's so much attention to detail. You can just see his little pug nose and snout, and you can even see the little tiny nostrils, and it just looks 100% like a pug, along with the curl-tailed. Honestly, like I said, one of the best dogs, Lego minifigure or Lego dogs there is. I do have the original pug dogs, and I also do have the pug minifigure from whatever series that was, but they just don't compare to this. All right, as you can see, the attention to detail is insane, and this pug figure is probably about two or three studs wide, which is really small. And like I said, they did a very good job with the attention to detail. All right, so the minifigures, nothing special here. We have Jose, Craig, and Betty. Those aren't their real names. I just gave them names off the fly like that. But just your basic construction minifigures with basic construction faces. I do like their outfits though. They actually do look like very good construction workers, and it does look like the lady's in charge because she does have the name tag. All right, and it does come with quite a few rocks. This is my first time actually owning some of the smaller rocks, which I thought was pretty cool. You can actually fit the little Lego gems inside the rocks, and then it does come with a couple purple crystals that you can fit inside the big boulders, which is pretty cool. All right, so moving on to the container. The container, it's small, but it's big. There's not enough room where if you were to close the container, it would actually make sense to where a minifigure could actually stand in there. And unfortunately, this blue door right here, behind it, there's a bathroom door. If you open up the blue door, you can't open up the bathroom door. So it's meant to be played with where you actually open it up and then you'll actually be able to play with it. Honestly, the inside looks sick, and we're about to get to it in a sec. All right, here's some of the extra pieces it came with. All right, so moving on to this. So it does come with a construction worker sign. Pretty cool, whatever, nothing super fancy. This would make a grid piece in somebody who's doing a city mock and has a construction area. And there's poop on the ground. All right, so here's the kitchen area. This looks awesome in my opinion. My favorite thing about this whole build is this whole container is the refrigerator. This is the first time I've ever seen a refrigerator in any of these Lego sets. There's also a pretty cool looking calendar sticker here. It has a picture of a pug on top, and then there's actually a little sticky note of a pug, which is pretty cool. And then there's a pug treat or pug food in the bowl underneath. Comes with a pizza and a drink. All right, the bathroom is also pretty cool. The sink, honestly, for the amount of space they took up, they did a very good job in the bathroom. It makes sense. All right, so moving on to the other side, this is just where some of the equipment is. It looks like there's a medical cabinet here, a broom, and some other little equipment. Nothing too crazy, just your basic Lego equipment pieces. All right, so one thing I really did notice, I believe I saw in an Instagram post, that this piece can actually go on the harbor, or not harbor, the cargo train that just came out. There's actually a part where you can just put it on the actual cargo train itself. It's pretty cool. So if you have the cargo train, this would definitely be worth getting just because you can put it on the cargo train as well. And I think with the window, it looks really cool. As you can see, there's not much space for minifigures to just stand up. Honestly, I don't even know if you could put a minifigure in here just to put them in there. There's just not much space. But like I said, it's made for a train and made to go on the cargo train, which makes sense. Probably should have made the cargo train wider. All right, so on my first attempt, I was able to scoop up some of the rocks. And like I said, because the actual, whatever the thing is called that actually scoops, we'll just call it the scoop. Like I said, I apologize, construction people. I don't know what it's called. But the scoop that scoops up the rocks, you have to push down a little bit. But then once you push down, it's able to scoop up the rocks easily. And this is on a flat surface. If you don't push it down, you'll probably have to get a running start to be able to scoop up the rocks. But I was able to get 3 rocks on my first try, which isn't bad. All right, so unfortunately, we're going to find out here, it does not scoop up the pug. It also does not make a very good pooper scooper because it doesn't scoop up the poop or the pug. Bruh. All right, so overall, just recapping, for $130, honestly, I thought this set was $120 whenever I saw it. I'm like, oh, that's not too bad of a price. And then I saw it was $130, and I was like, no freaking way this is $130.
Nope.
I built this set, and overall, my conclusion is do not buy this set. I repeat, do not buy this set for $130. Wait until the set goes on sale for like 20% off. You'll be able to pick it up at Target, Walmart, maybe even the Lego store. If you'll probably have to wait a little bit, but they'll probably have it on sale eventually there. Wait until it goes 20% off, and then I would pick up the set. At $130, I could not see picking up this set. I was very fortunate that I did actually pick up this set for $70 from Kohl's because I had some Kohl's cash after buying the Razor Crest a couple weeks ago. So I was very fortunate I was able to pick up this set for $70, which was definitely worth it. It comes with 1,100 pieces. Like I said, I would not pick up this set for $130 unless you need to have the set right now and it's life or death.
Okay.
But overall, it is a very cool build, and I would definitely add it to your collection, especially if you have any of the other construction builds, or if you plan on getting the the other yellow construction set that came out in August. Here's a closer look at my pug. And that is going to be it for today, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and have a good one.